Lesson 2. Writing your first query. In this lesson, we'll be writing our very first query, which will be the foundation of every SQL query you will ever write, as they all have basically the same structure. In all our queries, we will be asking the database for data, so every query will start with the keyword select. The select keyword essentially tells the database to go get the data and present it back to us. Typically, this will be in the form of a table with rows and columns. Next, so that the database knows what columns to give us, we need to specify the column names, which comes right after the select keyword. Please note that the column names we select must match the column names in our database, otherwise SQL won't know what data to return us. And lastly, notice how each column is separated by a comma. This is important to remember when listing columns. Forgetting commas is a common mistake, so always make sure to double check that you have a comma in between each of the columns you select. And lastly, once we have specified the columns we are interested in, we have to let the database know where to go get those columns. We do this using the from keyword, followed by the table we will be selecting the columns from. And that's it. That's the basic structure of every query you will ever write. Let's now take a tour of Big Duck Furniture. Can you think of a few ways of how the data might be stored? If you were a category manager, what information might you be interested in? If it were me, I'd be interested in knowing what products I have on offer. Or maybe I'd want to know what the average price is of all the products within a given category. Thinking about my customer, I might like to know what customers are looking at. What's my most popular product? What's my least popular product? So now that we know that all this information is stored in tables, let's go ahead and take a look at the schema to determine what information is available to us. The most difficult part of writing your queries is knowing where to find the data, and that's what schemas are used for. The schema is a map of our database that shows us what tables are available, what columns they have, and the type of data held in each column. It is normal for companies to have their own schemas available to their employees, so it's always a good practice to have a look through these and familiarize yourself with how the data is stored. For us, the schema is located on the Schema tab on the Playground page. So if we click on the schema, what we will see is a list of boxes, where each box represents a table in our database. For example, we have a table for shopping carts, products, categories, and so on. Let's now take a closer look at the product table, which has a row for every product sold on the Big Duck Furniture website. Looking through the schema, we see what columns are available on the left, such as the product name, description, price, and so on. On the right, we see the type of data stored in each column. For example, the price column stores data in a decimal format, descriptions are stored as text, and names are stored as characters. It is very important to understand how the data is stored when you are transforming or filtering out data, which we will get into in later lessons. Let's now go ahead and write a query to list out all the products sold on the Big Duck Furniture website. To do that, we'll again start by heading over to our Schema tab, and let's assume all that we want is the list of names of our products. Luckily, there's a table called Shop Product that conveniently has a column called Name. This table should do the trick. Heading back over to the playground, we can now start writing out our query. Thinking back to the beginning of our lesson, we know that all queries will start with the select keyword to ask the database for data. After the select keyword, we have to list out the columns we want to select. In this case, we just want the product names, so we type out name. We then have to tell SQL where to get the columns from, so let's use the from keyword followed by the table name, shop product. And that should do it. Let's run our query and see what happens. And there we have it, the list of all products offered on the Big Duck Furniture website. Let's now move on to our first SQL challenge. It's not unusual for us to want more than one column from our tables. Therefore, can you write a query that shows both the name and the price of all the products in our store? Good luck! Again, starting from our schema, we see that the table Shop Product has both a column for name and price. So let's go ahead and use that table. Heading over to the playground now, we simply type out select, followed by the columns we want, name and price, remembering to separate our columns with a comma. Lastly, the from keyword, and the table we'll be pulling the data from, in this case, the Shop Product table. We now just need to click the Run button, and there we have it, all the products and their prices on the Big Duck Furniture website. Thanks, and see you in our next lesson.